Hi, my name is Jackson Evans, and today I will do a short presentation of both members of this club, an oil painting by George Wesley Bellows. You can find this work of art hanging in the hallways of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. It dates back to October 1909. This is likely a representation of the fights he would have attended in Tom Sharkley's athletic club in New York City around that time. To give a little bit more about the painter, George Wesley Bellows was born in Columbus, Ohio, August 12, 1882, to George and Anna Williamson Bellows. He was an only child, save for his half-sister, Laura, who was 18 years older. Growing up, he always had a fascination with athletics, in particular, baseball and basketball, both of which he played when he attended Ohio State University. He also drew for the student yearbook, the Micaiah, which likely made him realize his newfound appreciation of art. So, he dropped out just before graduation in 1904. He moved to New York City to study art. He became a student of painter Robert Henry. He was involved with the Eight and the Ashkin School, and while he was learning under Robert Henry, he was taught to paint the world around his subject, which you can see is depicted here. The spectators are painted around the boxers, and you can see how they are painted in a less quality as the boxers are. Later in his life, he and a fellow student named Edward Keefe had established a studio at 1947 Broadway by 1906, and together they came into attention in 1908 when they came up with an exhibition on everyday urban life in New York City. His depiction seemed to satirize the upper class and depict the chaos and the plight of the lower class. You can see upper-class citizens having an everyday picnic painted in beautiful bright colors, and you can see low-class citizens painted in slums and dirty neighborhoods in black, brown, and dark colors. And you can see that reflected in many of his works, including this one. To tell you a little bit more about the painting, the title itself, both members of this club, is a reference to the membership, like the temporary membership given to the boxers of that era in order to avoid the Lewis Law of 1900, which effectively banned boxing in the state of New York. Due to that, it came under controversy, as well as the depiction of a racial boxing match in which a black male was beating a white male in the ring. And this likely was a reflection upon the publicized African American prizefighter Jack Johnson, who won the World Heavyweight Championship in 1908. But it did come under scrutiny due to the fact that this was the height of the Jim Crow era. Many people found it so unsettling that they debated banning interracial fights altogether. And George Bellows, this work was especially daring in the fact that it challenged the status quo, and in my personal opinion, it depicts the upper class and the lower class society. You can see lower class boxers fighting for all they're worth, while upper class spectators just painted with greed, with animalistic terrifying expressions on their face. You can see the representation of that one man with a terrifying smile as he watched as the two men who are depicted as just slabs of meat that are just going up against each other, and it just feels so animalistic and so horrifying, and that subject matter is just a terrible, terrible subject. I do have respect for George Wesley Bellows in his daring and provocative piece that challenges the everyday status quo that was commonly accepted in New York society. Now, this piece is the third largest of his prize fight collections. He often depicted the urban situations and fighting, boxing matches to swimming and fishing. You could see all of that in his lower class urban collection. Now, later in life, he began to depict more naturalistic as he grew a family. You could see him depicting his wife and daughters playing as on a picnic. And you could see the landscapes where he painted calmly and beautifully. And you reflect back to paintings like this one that was painted angrily and just in a different manner altogether. And I believe that's a different reflection on a different point in his life. Now, towards the end of his life, he became more of a naturalistic type of person. He became more of a naturalistic painter. And he never forgot about his love for athleticism and his depiction of modern urban New York. And that I have so much respect for him. Thank you for your time.